She just wanted a quiet beach date. But instead, Olivia found herself overshadowed by the one woman who knew Ethan best, his ex, and the lifeguard on duty. With subtle control and perfect timing, Brooke made sure Olivia felt like the third wheel in her own story. But when a child was swept into a rip current, it was Olivia who took command, and everything changed. Just wait until you hear how this unexpected twist rewrote the ending and proved that some boundaries are drawn not in sand, but in action. It was the kind of Saturday that made people believe in second chances. The sky was a postcard blue, stitched only with the faintest clouds like someone had gently brushed white chalk across canvas. The wind was light, the forecast blessedly uneventful, and Olivia Parker had spent the better part of her morning trying to believe that things, just for once, could be simple. She'd packed with care, but not too much of it. A soft checked picnic blanket that didn't scream Pinterest mom. Watermelon cubes in a glass container because plastic somehow felt too temporary. SPF 50. A paperback she probably wouldn't open. And sunglasses she'd bought on sale last fall but had never felt quite brave enough to wear. They were on her face now, half shield, half hope. Ethan Cole, walking beside her with one hand balancing a ridiculously oversized umbrella on his shoulder and the other holding a portable speaker dangling by its strap, looked like the embodiment of thoughtful preparation. His flip-flops slapped rhythmically against the boardwalk. He double-checked the Tide report that morning and brought 3 extra towels, even though she'd only asked for 1. That was Ethan, not a control freak, but a quiet problem solver. Always 2 steps ahead, not because he didn't trust life, but because he knew how quickly it could turn sideways. They were 2 months into whatever it was they were building, the early phase, the one where every touch still felt like a question mark, and every date was a coin toss between magic and misunderstanding. But so far, they'd been lucky. She made him laugh with her quiet, slightly crooked view of the world. He made her feel listened to, really listened to, in a way she hadn't experienced in years. No passive scrolling while she spoke, no half-hearted nods. Just Ethan, looking at her like whatever she was saying might actually matter. Their relationship still wore the newness of untested plans, but there was something steady forming underneath. Olivia could feel it. She didn't want to name it yet. Naming things too soon had been a problem in the past, but today felt like a safe step forward. She glanced at him. "You brought the umbrella." He smiled. "I brought the hurricane-grade umbrella. We could get caught in a rogue storm and still be dry." She laughed. "Let's hope it doesn't come to that." They reached the sand and paused to take it all in. The glitter of sunlight on the water, the patchwork of families, towels, and tan strangers, the smell of salt and sunscreen. Somewhere, a kid shrieked at a seagull. It was perfect. Not breathtaking, not cinematic, just good, real. And then the moment changed. A voice, sharp and clear, sliced through the lazy soundscape like a snap of cold air. "Ethan?" He stopped walking. So did Olivia. The voice wasn't angry or loud, just unexpected and unmistakably familiar. Olivia followed Ethan's gaze toward the lifeguard tower standing sentinel just beyond the flagpoles. At the top of it, legs crossed and posture confidently casual, sat a woman in mirrored sunglasses and a red uniform that fit like it was tailored for authority. Sunlight glinted off her lenses, hiding her eyes but not her presence. Brooke Dunn. The name came to Olivia like a memory she hadn't lived. She'd heard it enough, casual mentions and stories Ethan told when trying not to dwell on them. My ex used to do that. Yeah, Brooke always liked hiking early. She was really into dogs. Never said with bitterness, just the kind of tone you used when referring to someone who once held your future in her hands. And now, here she was. Not in a story, not in a safe, processed version of the past, but real, tall, athletic, in charge. Watching them from her tower, like the beach, and maybe Ethan too, still belonged to her. The name landed in Olivia's stomach like a pebble dropped into still water. Then it echoed upward into her chest. She kept her face neutral, but her hand tightened slightly on the strap of her bag. Brooke stood, her descent from the tower graceful and practiced. She moved like someone who was used to being watched, used to issuing instructions and having them followed. When she reached the sand, she walked toward them, not hesitant, not dramatic, just like she belonged in the scene. Olivia hated that the thought crossed her mind. "Small world," Brooke said, offering a smile that somehow felt both sincere and strategic. "You picked a good day. Watch the north swell, rips building by the jetty." Her voice was even, casual. Her tone, however, carried the layered history of someone who had once known Ethan well enough to notice when he was about to say the wrong thing. Ethan's response came a beat too late. "Hey, Brooke, good to see you." He squeezed Olivia's hand then, a gesture meant to anchor them perhaps, but it came after the pause, after the recognition, after Brooke had already assessed the situation and slotted Olivia into whatever mental folder she kept for new girlfriends. The squeeze was gentle, but it lingered half a second too long, like he wasn't sure if he was reassuring her or himself. "Is this your spot?" Brooke asked, gesturing toward the stretch of sand behind them. "Just got here," Ethan replied, tone level. Friendly, but not warm. Familiar, but careful. Olivia said nothing. Not because she didn't have words, but because none of them would have come out the right shape. Her brain was still catching up, and her heart was already a few steps ahead, sprinting through old insecurities she thought she'd left behind. The beach, once so full of potential, now felt like a stage. The towel they were about to lay out might as well have been marked with tape. The waves behind them rolled on, indifferent. But the date, as much as she hated to admit it, no longer belonged entirely to them. It had an audience now, and the past, dressed in red and holding a whistle, had just pulled up a chair. Conflict, when it arrived, didn't wear black or carry a flag. It wore a red one-piece and mirrored sunglasses, and it smiled just enough to stay professional. Every 20 minutes or so, Brooke Dunn would make another lap past their spot, ostensibly checking on safety protocols and the shifting current. But somehow, she always slowed near their towel. She'd pause just long enough to toss out a piece of advice. "Rip's pulling harder now, watch for the drop-off near the South Rocks." Or comment lightly on Ethan's increasingly sideways umbrella. "That thing's gonna launch into orbit by noon." She said it with a grin, one that implied history. And each time, her gaze flicked to Olivia just long enough to register, but never quite long enough to acknowledge. It was subtle, nothing that would qualify as inappropriate or even unfriendly, but that was what made it more effective. There was no scene, no sharp tone, no clear line crossed, just presence, intentional presence. And Olivia felt it. Brooke spoke to Ethan the way people do when they've already lived through each other's worst moods. There was a kind of shorthand to their exchanges. Half smiles, quick glances, a shared laugh at a memory Olivia wasn't part of. Ethan didn't seem to realize it, or if he did, he gave no sign. His tone was neutral, his body language open but casual. Not flirtatious, but not guarded either, which in some ways was worse. Olivia watched as Brooke stood close enough to Ethan that their shadows almost touched. The way she positioned her body, chest tilted toward him, chin angled ever so slightly away from Olivia, wasn't overtly rude, but it was calculated, a quiet assertion, a geometry of presence that communicated, "I've stood here before. I know the shape of this space, and I still fit inside it." And Ethan? He answered her comments with that same easy charm Olivia had fallen for, the one that made people feel seen without ever feeling examined. It was what she loved about him. It was also what made this moment quietly unbearable. Her heart, sensing competition, began doing what hearts do, preparing for trial, gathering evidence, building a silent case. Brooke's laugh, a little too familiar. The way she said Cole instead of Ethan, a slip of old affection, or worse, muscle memory. The way Ethan smiled back? Friendly, but not meaningless. And then came the moment Olivia couldn't ignore. Ethan decided to take his board out for a quick paddle. "I'll just be 15–20 minutes, tide soft, perfect time," he said, brushing sand from his shorts as he stood. "Don't go past the reef markers," Brooke called out from her tower, cupping her hands around her mouth. But it wasn't just a warning. It was a nickname, a tone, a private note tucked inside a public message. "Stay inside the markers, Cole," she repeated. Olivia heard it clear as anything. The name, the familiarity, the drop in register that only someone with old ties could use without realizing it. Ethan lifted a hand in acknowledgement, already jogging toward the water, and Olivia's stomach sank. Not because of what Brooke said, but because of how naturally he responded to it. Trying to reclaim some version of the day, Olivia stood up and dusted the sand off her legs. "Want company?" she asked, already knowing the answer. He turned, surprised but happy. "Sure, it's mellow out there." She didn't mention that her swimming confidence was middling at best. On paper, she could handle herself fine in the water. She wasn't afraid of waves or undercurrents. But this was different. She wasn't swimming to enjoy the ocean. She was swimming to stay close, to prove something. The water at first was a relief. It was cool but not freezing, and the waves were soft and rhythmic. Ethan stayed close, paddling ahead but checking on her every often. "You good?" he'd ask, nodding toward an incoming swell. She'd nod back, forcing a grin. "Yeah, I'm good." And for a brief window, she was. There was something grounding in being out past the shore, salt clinging to her skin, the beach crowd distant enough that voices became muffled static. Here she could pretend the morning hadn't been derailed. Here there was just Ethan, the water, and her own effort to keep afloat. But ease is fragile. It can vanish with a sound. A sharp whistle sliced through the breeze, loud, clear, and unmistakably aimed in their direction. "You two, out of the channel!" Brooke's voice rang out across the surf. The words, while intended as a general warning, struck Olivia like a verdict. The delivery wasn't angry. It was firm, commanding, public. A lifeguard doing her job, but also an ex staking territory. Olivia felt the attention of every nearby swimmer shift toward them. A few people on shore sat up, squinting toward the sound. The moment cracked, and with it, the small bubble of calm they had tried to build. They weren't even in the channel, not really, just on the edge of it. But the blast of the whistle, the direction of the voice, the unmistakable Brookeness of the entire moment, it pulled something sharp and defensive from Olivia's chest. She looked at Ethan. He had turned toward shore, face expressionless, brow slightly furrowed. "We're fine," he muttered under his breath, barely crossed. But it didn't matter. The damage had been done, not to their safety, but to the illusion that they could still call this day theirs. As they made their way back toward shallower water, Olivia felt a familiar burn rising in her cheeks, not from sun or exertion, but from the slow humiliation of being corrected in public, of being watched, of being measured against someone who knew all the shortcuts to the man beside him. Brooke hadn't broken any rules. She hadn't even raised her voice. And yet the message landed loud and clear. "I see you, I see this, and I'm still here." The water had tested them, and Olivia wasn't sure who had passed.
Pain doesn't always announce itself with a bang. Sometimes it arrives dressed as protocol. They're back on the sand, Olivia brushing salt from her skin, trying to shake off the sting of that whistle, of being pointed at, corrected. The silence between her and Ethan is thin, stretched like a tightrope neither of them wants to step on first. She unwraps their lunch. The watermelon is still cool in its container. It's the kind of simple pleasure meant to anchor them, meant to say, "We're still okay." She hands Ethan a slice, takes one for herself, and just as she lifts it to her lips, a shadow falls across their towel. "Excuse me, ma'am," says a voice, young but trained. A junior lifeguard, probably 18 or 19, stands there in full uniform, notebook in hand. He's polite but official, doing a round. His eyes drop to the glass bottle Olivia brought with the picnic, mineral water barely touched. "No bottles on the beach," he says, gesturing toward the warning sign posted 20 feet away. "It's a safety regulation." Olivia blinks. "It's just sparkling water. We weren't—" The guard cuts her off gently. "It's still glass. I have to log a warning." Behind him, Brooke stands near her tower. She's not smiling now, not interfering either, just watching, her mirrored sunglasses masking whatever expression might be hiding behind them. When the kid glances toward her, subconsciously, like a student checking with a teacher, Brooke gives the smallest nod. Official, detached. And that's what breaks Olivia. Not the warning, not the rule, but the choreography of it, the smoothness, the tidy correctness of the whole thing. It doesn't scream personal, but it doesn't have to. Olivia's skin burns hotter than the sun overhead, even as she forces a polite, "Okay, thank you," and accepts the slip of paper that means almost nothing and also everything. She sits down wordlessly, folding the warning in half like she can shrink the sting. Ethan offers a quiet, diplomatic, "We didn't realize." His tone is soft, measured, classic Ethan. The kind of calm that can de-escalate any situation, the kind that makes people feel safe. But not Olivia, not right now. Because she sees it. He's not angry, not even annoyed. And worse than that, she thinks, he understands. Brooke's role, the junior guard's training, the technical rightness of it all. Ethan gets it, and that makes Olivia feel something sharper than embarrassment. It makes her feel alone. She stares at the ocean, and the thought she's been pushing down for hours finally claws its way up. Am I the third wheel on my own date? Her voice, when it comes, is barely above a whisper. I didn't come here to be managed. She says it more to the ocean than to Ethan, but he hears it. He sets down his watermelon slice, brushing his hands on his swim trunks, and looks at her. His voice is steady, but there's something different behind it now, a fracture in the neutral tone he's worn all day. I'm not trying to manage anything, Liv. I'm just trying not to pick a fight with a lifeguard on her own beach. It's reasonable, it's mature, and it doesn't help. Olivia keeps her gaze forward, toward the waves. And her being your ex is just weather? Ethan lets out a short breath, not quite a laugh, but something close to surrender. It's wind, he says finally. Wind we can paddle against, but yeah, it's wind. It's one of those moments where a simple sentence says too much. There's affection in it, frustration, honesty, and a quiet plea. Don't make me choose between peace and principle. They fall into silence again, and the breeze shifts. The ocean changes in tiny, invisible ways. A stronger push on the tide, a new rhythm in the waves. Brooke, still near her tower, stands taller. Her eyes scan the water with that hyper-focus lifeguards learn, a focus that dims everything else. That's when the sound changes. Someone shouting, not panicked, but urgent. 30 yards south, a boy in bright orange swim trunks dressed just beyond the sandbar lip. At first, it looks like he's playing, but then he tries to paddle and gets nowhere. His body tilts wrong, his strokes are chaotic. When he lifts his arms straight up instead of swimming, straight up, not out, Olivia's stomach drops. It's the universal sign of panic. Rip! Brooke's voice explodes across the beach. She's off the tower in seconds, barefoot, running. Her partner reaches for the rescue can, but she doesn't wait. She moves like someone who knows there isn't time. The whistle in her hand becomes a siren, and the entire beach stills. Ethan is up before his thoughts catch up. No hesitation, no calculation. His body just goes. He sprints across the sand, boards through the low tide edge, knees high through the foam. Olivia stands, frozen for a split second. Her eyes can't keep up with how fast it's happening. The water, the shouts, the splash of Brooke's entry, the sharp motion of Ethan diving under the first break. He's in it. And suddenly, Olivia's out of the story. Just like that. She doesn't remember sitting down, but she's kneeling now, hands pressed to the towel, breath caught somewhere between fear and fury. Her heart punches against her ribs. Of all the possible ways this date could twist, why this? Why now? She's scared, of course she is. Scared for the boy, scared for Ethan. But there's a sharper edge under that fear. Anger. Anger at how the ocean, this vast, unpredictable thing, chose this exact moment to rewrite the narrative. Brooke is already out past the break, swimming strong. Ethan, slightly ahead, reaches the boy first. It's like watching a script unfold that Olivia was never handed. A scene where the ex gets the hero's entrance, and she, new, unproven, sits on the sidelines, powerless. The moment is real, raw, high stakes, but emotionally, it feels symbolic too. The ocean takes what it wants, and sometimes it leaves you on shore, watching. Some moments split your life into a before and an after, and they don't always come with warning bells. Sometimes they come in the form of a decision so fast, so instinctive, that it takes longer to process than to make. For Olivia, the choice arrives in the space of a single breath. She could stay where she is, watching from the shoreline, heart pounding, salt in her throat. She could let the scene unfold without her, like a movie she never asked to be part of. That's what the old her would have done. Stand back, try to read the script, spiral quietly in the shadows while someone else took center stage. But today is different. Something inside her, the same thing that's been whispering, "Not again, not this time," all day, snaps to attention. She runs. Not blindly, not recklessly, but with purpose. There's a cluster of beachgoers just a few towels away. 2 teenage boys with Bluetooth speakers, a dad rubbing sunscreen onto his daughter's shoulders, an older woman in a faded Giants cap sipping iced tea. Not a rescue crew, not trained responders, just people. "Hey," Olivia calls out, loud and clear, sharper than she's ever heard herself speak in public. "We need a chain, right now, hands linked, waist deep only. Lock in, don't break." They look at her, confused, surprised, but they don't freeze. One of the teens drops his speaker. The dad turns instinctively. The woman in the cap's face shifts from confusion to understanding. Something ancient clicks into place. Community, instinct, the human reflex to help. They move. Within seconds, they're forming a line. Hands grip wrists, elbows brace. Olivia takes her place at the front, water lapping at her knees, then her thighs. The current tugs harder here. Her calves strain, but she holds steady. Feet planted, arms outstretched, she becomes the hinge between chaos and shore. Out beyond the breakers, Ethan is first to the boy. He reaches him, puts an arm around his small, panicking chest, tries to turn him toward the beach, and makes the mistake that untrained swimmers make. He swims against the rip. It slows him instantly, like swimming through syrup. Brooke arrives seconds later, cutting across the current on a diagonal. Her voice is low, measured. "Don't fight it, let it pull. Angle south, we'll ride the shoulder in." It's the kind of instruction that's been drilled into her muscles for years, metronome steady, fearless, because fear doesn't help anyone float. But the ocean doesn't care about training. A side current sweeps in, slicing across their trajectory like a knife. Ethan's leg cramps mid-kick. The boy flails, clawing without aim. Brooke shoves the rescue can between them, interposing her own body as a buffer. She takes the brunt, knees jolted, shoulder twisted, but doesn't let go. She's practiced, she's professional, and now she's winded. Olivia pushes forward with the chain, chest deep now, the water's force trying to rearrange her footing. Her arms tremble, but the line holds. Strangers behind her grip harder. The woman in the cap barks, "Brace," as a swell rolls in. It crashes against their shins like a challenge. "Hold," Olivia yells. The line bows, but it doesn't break. Out in the water, Brooke times the set. Her eyes flick to Ethan, who's still cramping, but conscious, still paddling. She wraps her arms around the boy and launches him toward the human chain, like a quarterback making a desperate pass. "Now," she shouts. Ethan grabs the can with one arm and uses his good leg to shove. The kid shoots forward. The chain absorbs him. He crashes into Olivia's arms like a living wave.
She catches him, arms closing tight around his slippery torso. "You're okay," she says, not even knowing if he can hear her. The boy sobs once, loud and messy, but he holds on. And behind her, hand by hand, wrist by wrist, they pass him down the line like something sacred. They don't let go. The moment that boy hits dry sand, the entire beach breathes again. But the job's not done. Back in the surf, Brooke falters. Her kick stutters, the old ACL injury she thought was finally healed flaring with a hot pulse. The rescue can drags awkwardly against the current. Her stroke shortens. Ethan sees it. He doesn't try to be a hero. He doesn't posture. Instead, he speaks the sentence that marks a shift not just in this rescue, but in their entire history. "On my right," he says. No argument, no hesitation. They swim side by side, bodies aligned, breaths synced, strength shared. They let the rip take them sideways, not back. They don't fight it, they use it. Brooke counts under her breath, each beat matching the rhythm of the waves. Ethan mirrors her until they feel the bottom lift beneath their feet again. Knee deep, then ankle deep, and then they're up. When they stumble onto shore, wet and shaken, applause erupts around them. Not polite claps, not hesitant appreciation, roaring relief. The boy is wrapped in a towel now, nestled against the woman in the Giants cap who hugs him like he's her own. The teens fist bump each other, already replaying the moment in adrenaline-laced sentences. Olivia stands a few feet from the crowd, water dripping from her fingertips, salt stinging her calves. Her hands won't stop trembling. Ethan reaches her first. His smile is cracked and breathless. He coughs once, then laughs the kind of laugh that breaks right down the middle, equal parts release and disbelief. Brooke follows behind. She leans on the rescue can, her chest heaving, her hair stuck to her jawline. For the first time all day, the lifeguard mask slips. Not the authority figure, not the ex, just a person. They don't speak right away. There's no need. They all know what they did. They also know what it cost. And somewhere in the depth of that silence, Olivia realizes something profound. She didn't take back the day. She earned it. Not by winning, not by outshining, but by choosing to step in when it counted and finding herself in the process.
Not all endings arrive with music swelling in the background or the sun setting just right. Sometimes they come in the form of simple sentences, said without apology. No performance, no script, just truth, spoken out loud. The boy, his name is Lucas, they learn later, is safe now. Shivering but steady, wrapped in an emergency blanket like a small silver medal. The EMTs give him a nod of approval, and he returns it with the bravest version of a smile he can manage. His mother arrives in tears. His sister, wide-eyed, clutches the strap of her floaty like it's the most important thing in the world. The family huddles together, intact. People begin to settle again. Conversations pick back up, phones come out, beach towels are rearranged. But in the little circle where it all happened, time lingers differently, slower, more careful. Brooke approaches Ethan with the posture of someone used to finishing what she starts. "Nice work, Cole," she says, short and to the point. But the way she says it, no teasing, no irony, lands with quiet sincerity. Ethan nods, then turns slightly toward Olivia, gesturing with a small wave of his hand. It wasn't just us. The chain, Olivia led it. That's what brought him in. He says it without flair, no embellishment, just the facts. But the message beneath it is layered. I saw her. I saw what she did, and it mattered. Brooke catches it too. She shifts her weight, then steps toward Olivia, motioning her a few paces away from the crowd. Up close, Brooke looks different. Still sunlit, still composed, but softer now. The sunglasses are gone, and so is the whistle. Her face is open, unguarded, just a woman, one person to another. "I owe you an apology," she says. No preamble, no excuse. Olivia tilts her head, listening. "Not for doing my job," Brooke continues. "Someone had to blow the whistle. But for everything else, the hovering, the comments, the presence.
She smiles, a touch sheepishly. I told myself I was protecting the beach, but really, I was protecting a story, one where I still mattered to him, where maybe, just maybe, he'd come back. There's no bitterness in her tone, just the kind of self-awareness that only shows up when the dust finally settles. When Ethan left, Brooke adds, I told myself I was fine, strong, unshaken, but I wasn't. I stayed angry longer than I should have. Took this job thinking saving other people might quiet the part of me that didn't want to admit I couldn't save that. She lets the silence breathe between them. A confession offered not to clear her name, but to stop repeating the same pattern. Olivia doesn't rush to respond. She watches Brooke, really watches her, for the first time without defense. And in that stillness, she sees not a rival or a shadow from the past, but just a person learning how to let go. Thank you, Olivia says, simply, for the kid and for telling me this. She could say more. She could press a bruise, could ask why today had to turn into a silent war. But she doesn't. Because today already gave her something better than validation. It gave her her own voice back. Determination, she realizes, isn't just for emergencies. It's for deciding who you want to be after them. Ethan joins them then, towel slung around his shoulders like a cape that didn't quite survive the day. He looks at both women, eyes clear. He doesn't fumble or deflect. Brooke, he says, with steady calm, I'm grateful for what we had and for what you did today, truly. She nods. But I'm with Olivia now, he continues, and that means boundaries. Not because I'm afraid of you or the past, but because I respect what I have now. The words aren't sharp, they don't draw blood, but they land with finality, the kind that doesn't need to be followed with anything else. And Brooke, athlete, leader, once girlfriend, takes it like someone who knows how to finish a race with dignity. Copy that, she says, with a small, respectful grin. She glances up at the tower, then out to the water. Transfer paperwork's already in. Different beach starting next month. I told myself it was for the better schedule. Maybe it's really for this. She gestures vaguely at the shoreline, the three of them, the way the story has now unraveled and reformed into something clearer. Be good to each other. Then she turns, climbs the tower ladder with measured grace, and resumes her post. Not as an X, not as a question mark, but as a lifeguard doing her job. And that's enough. Olivia and Ethan don't speak right away. They walk the tide line instead, barefoot, their steps leaving temporary trails behind them. The sea is calmer now, the tide pulling back slowly as if exhaling after holding its breath all day. Finally, Olivia breaks the silence. I didn't want to be managed, she says, eyes on the horizon. Ethan nods. And I didn't want to be the kind of guy who can't set a boundary. She glances at him amused. And I didn't want to pick a fight with a hero. He stops walking for half a second, then turns to her with a look that holds no doubt, no jest. You were the hero, he says, pointing subtly toward the spot where the chain of strangers held fast, where she made the first move. She doesn't argue, she doesn't deflect. For once, she just lets the compliment land where it belongs. When they reach the curve of the beach, Ethan draws a shallow line in the wet sand with the heel of his foot. Old stories, he says. Olivia adds a second line beside it. New ones. The next wave glides in and erases them both in a single smooth sweep. Because the ocean doesn't keep records. It doesn't care who wrote what or when. It only asks that you stay aware of the current and that you face it, not turn your back. They head back to their towel. The watermelon is warm now. The umbrella still leans, crooked and stubborn. But the day is theirs again, not because nothing went wrong, but because everything did, and they still chose each other. They share the last slice of fruit without a word. The speaker finally connects. Some upbeat summer song trickles out, one they won't remember tomorrow, but which feels exactly right for now. Olivia rests her head on Ethan's shoulder. He threads his fingers through hers. Around them, the beach continues. Towels are folded, kids chase each other into the shallows. The wind brushes past like a whisper that doesn't need to be understood. No one claps anymore. No one watches. And that's the point. The story doesn't need a standing ovation. It just needs to go on. Less perfect, more true.